What's up, beautiful souls? In today's episode, we dive deep. Who really is Archangel Metatron? Who really is Jehovah? Where did this collective fall? And what is the real fall? How did humanity fall from an eternal life planet into a finite life? How did 5D Earth fall to 3D Earth? We literally dive into the science and the true eternal life history of what happened, but more importantly, we dive into how to restore the eternal base 12 code within and for humanity. And we end with a powerful meditation which reconnects your direct connection point to source. So if this intrigues you, check out this episode. Let me know what you think. What's up, beautiful souls? I wanted to share with you the eternal life wisdom, a rapid 12-strand DNA activation technique. Take a look within and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. But take a look within where? Into the intron potential DNA scientists used to call junk. It's not junk, it's potential DNA. The 4th, 5th, and 6th stranded DNA is your soul. The 7th, 8th, 9th stranded DNA is your oversoul. The 10th, 11th, 12th stranded DNA is your avatar, inner Cristo self. This is the same wisdom our brother Jeshua was learning in Egypt. And so he comes back and he says, I am the resurrection and the life. Yes, you have eternal life encoded within you. You don't have to die. And there's a sacred science of how to activate the morphogenetic energetic template which lives inside every human being. It's about remembering, but in order to do that, you have to encrypt and unlock the fire codes. And I've created 12 sacred techniques in a specific order in the original light language, Anu Hazimua, sound, light, and frequency with sacred symbols to, in order, activate and connect with your 12th dimensional avatar, Cristo self, your 13th dimensional, 14th, 15th dimensional Rishi self, unlocking that within you through the original sound, Anu Hazimua, unlocking the 7 higher heavens to literally not some external ascended master self, but your ascended master self, which is primal light and primal sound fields. And these sacred techniques, when done naturally and gradually, are literally re-encrypting your eternal life base 12 mathematical code, reactivating in a natural gradual way your DNA, your 12-stranded DNA, and literally shifting timelines, ending the cycle of reincarnations, and literally shifting you into creating heaven on earth, which is within you. And that's what these techniques were designed to do. And it's a sacred science and art, and I studied it for many, many lifetimes. In this lifetime, I remembered it, and it worked for me, and it's working for over 2,000 souls in the Eternal Life Tribe. But if you're like, yo, like I don't really want to join the tribe, and I just want the techniques, and I'm more of like a study at home type of person, I want to unlock all 12 of those techniques at one time, well then perhaps this course is for you if you resonate with it. So check out the link below, Rapid 12-Strand DNA Activation Program. Take a look within and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. Resurrect, bet the dead aren't really dead. So check out the course if this resonates with you. What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Today we're going to dive in the true history of the fall. How did Earth really fall from 12D, eternal life, to finite life? What really happened from 5D to 3D Earth? But more importantly, where are we today and how can we remember the true eternal life history? Because history will repeat itself unless we learn from the past. So we're going to go back, way back in time and remember and learn. And at the end, we're going to have a powerful activation to remember who we are and restore the eternal flame within us. So we're going to dive into the Jehovian Anunnaki. Who really are they? Who is Metatron? Why did they do what they did? And why are we where we're at today? So before we begin, let us set the frequency. By the love of original eternal source, consciousness field, we have come. So set a barrier now on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual plane around this podcast in all dimensions and all timelines. The frequency of the eternal beloved counsels, the eternal law of one, the direct stream from Almighty Living Creator Source coming in hot. We ask only those eternal beloved counsels of love to be here now, who only has the best interest in mind for humanity. For those who might be listening, we command all other beings to leave now. Rashi or Christ, on this podcast now. By the truth of original eternal source consciousness field we stand. We welcome in the frequency of the truth, the true history of Mother Earth, the truth of who we really are. Because the truth will set us free, and we are free indeed. By the power of original eternal source consciousness field we fly. 144,000 have arrived. Stars in my mind have aligned. Lyra 12D all the way down to Sirius 6B. Why so serious? Down to 3D. We travel so freely, multidimensionally, so we welcome each one of us to step into our power, unapologetically, unconditioned, unprogrammed, the unique oscillatory vibratory of Almighty Living Creator Source for such a beautiful, important inflection point in humanity's history. Mother Earth, she crying out, she giving birth, new earth for her children to step into their power. By the way of original eternal source go I, and by the grace of original eternal source consciousness field I now sanctify and renew this gathering. This podcast on all dimensions and all timelines is under the divine protection of the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order for the liberation of all sentient beings, that the glory and character of original eternal source Base 12 will cover the earth once again as the water covers the seas. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in this podcast as it is in the highest heavens. Taisha, into Doe, Taisha, into Doe, Taisha, into Doe. Spoken as it is stated now, and so it is done. All right, beautiful souls. Hope you're having a good week. All right, so we're going to dive right into a parable of how the coder who hacked his own game, right? So imagine that there was a brilliant young coder. Let's call his name Meta. Pun intended. Metatron. Meta. Thought that was clever. He helps build an incredible video game, a simulation that nobody has ever seen before. This game is alive. It responds to love, to intention, to creativity. It's not just pixels, it's a mirror of source. And everyone who plays this game, they remember something very, very deep and good inside themselves, and they learn more and they evolve in the frequency of love. But Meta one day got curious. He got impatient. He wanted to evolve the game faster. He wanted to take a shortcut. He wanted to add powers that were never actually meant to be part of the original eternal design. And so without telling anyone, he wrote a hidden code, a backdoor into the system. And this gives him control. It bends light and laws. It lets him override the natural flow of the game. It's like he took a simulation and he put it on top of the original game. At first, it seemed like it was genius, but soon others started to discover the code. Some use it with good intentions, others with selfish ones, and before long, the whole game begins to glitch. Characters start forgetting who they are. The joy that once flowed through the system gets replaced by competition. The need for greed leads to more need, leads to more greed, control, and fear. False evidence appearing real of dying. And Meta tries to fix it, but the code has already spread into the lives of billions of its users. It's copied, it's updated, it's worshipped as the real game, even though it's a broken version of the original. That's what happened to Earth. You see, the coder's name in galactic history is Metatron. The corrupted update was seeded by a group called the Jehovian Anunnaki Collective, from where the word Jehovah comes from. The glitch in the system is still running today. In fact, many in the spiritual New Age teachings, energy practices, healing technologies, and billions people believe they are in the light, but it's false light. They are artificial frequency systems that look bright, that can make you feel temporary bliss, but it actually feeds off the very life force that it is promising to restore. What's the good news? The original code, the eternal life blueprint, the 12-stranded DNA, the blueprint is still there, hidden beneath this false simulation. And when one can awaken it through joy, unity, and eternal life techniques and eternal living trivecca light, which is always connected to the source of all energy, continuously contracting and expanding into me, into you, into we, into universes and galaxies. They call me Dr. Lee, but I'm just being me. And it lives in the morphogenetic field of the DNA, which means when a diabetic cuts off their leg, they still have phantom pain because the morphogenetic field, the blueprint on which matter condenses, is still there. So even though billions have become trapped or lost in this cycle of reincarnation, of recycling of energy in a black hole system, the eternal life blueprint, the morphogenetic field, if you send it the right frequencies, reactivates, and the eternal life potential returns to me, to you, to we, to humanity. And today we begin the process of remembering. That's all we're doing, is remembering what exactly happened. But more importantly, how do we turn it back on? So we're going to dive in. Who was Metatron before the fall? Who was the Jehovian Anunnaki who initiated the grid hijack? What were the Lyran Wars? You see these tattoos on my neck? That's Lyra. 12D Lyra. And how it shaped our DNA, and how the original 12-stranded Christic DNA template still offers the path of return for those who choose. So the origins and early role, the Jehovian collective originated from what is known as the Wisa Lyra matrix, an advanced Christic race line. They were not the original founders. The original founders are the Iani, Adashi Adepts, and the Yanas. The 15-dimensional universal matrix that we live in, if you guys have been following along, right, was created by the Yanas eternal founders races who emerged directly from source, all that is. So from source, this group called the Yanas is literally, ascended master collectives. I don't like that word. Adachi Adept is probably the right term. They can create new universes and galaxies. And they have knowledge of first creation physics. And it expressed through what is called the Akasha Aya field. These founders projected themselves into the form of the Adashi Adept councils, the Iani priests of and the Maharaji Elohai Elohim. And together they seeded the living architecture of space, time, and biology through the Christar Eternal Flame template. The Jehovian collective, from which the word Jehovah comes from, though originally was Christic and born within the Wisa Lyra system, they were later co-architects and stewards within this time matrix, but they were not the original founders. They descended from earlier lineages and eventually deviated from eternal source alignment. So the Yanas and the Iani priests and the Maharaji, direct coming from source, from what is called the Akasha Aya, the source, right, literally created universes and galaxies. And although the Jehovian collective was initially a Christic line, right, they came together to co-create underneath the original founders as stewards, right? But they were still a very, very advanced Christic race with knowledge of first creation physics. So in some of the ceremonies I facilitate, I know it sounds a little out there, but people are literally going back to first creation physics. Because there's no time, only consciousness moving through different densities. So The Jehovian collective served as guardian technologists, architects of scalar mechanics and plasma architecture within the 15-dimensional time matrix. So if you don't know, we live in a 15-dimensional time matrix. So dimension 1 through 3, which 99% of humanity is stuck in, right? And each one represents a dimension. So here's dimension 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the soul. 7, 8, 9 is the oversoul. 10, 11, 12 is the avatar inner Christos. 13, 14, 15 is the Rishi self, right? And so this 15-dimensional universal time matrix, it's a mathematical code. And so within it, each dimension is connected to a larger universal Stargate. So there's a planetary Stargate, right? So you guys know, we did gridwork over Montsegur, France, planetary Stargate 12, and they're all interconnected in its original form. But there's also a mathematical code where it connects to universal Stargates. So the Jehovian collective were originally stewards of Universal Stargate 10 and Universal Stargate 11. Okay, which corresponds to dimension 10 and 11. So they were responsible for managing the scalar flows, which is like sound and light flows between. So they're stewards, right? So if you're, for example, your guardian 10, 11, 12, you're stewards of one below, right? And so they were stewards of dimensions 7 through 9 and dimensions 10 through 12. And so they were literally had knowledge of first creation physics. And they were guardians of the Christos eternal flame. And eventually, through free will choice, they begin to cut off, digress from source. They started to have this idea, what would happen? They started to become curious if we, utilizing our knowledge of first creation source, force, like created our own mathematical system, what would happen, right? And so they started getting this kind of idea that, oh, you know what? Hey, let's create our own. They started getting the need for greed. And this is where victim mode first started, because as they started to digress from source over a long period of time, literally the 10 and the 11, they were stewards. They had knowledge of first creation physics. They said, what would happen if we cut off the 12? We blow up the 12. We collapse the time and space, take two circles out and make it a base 10 instead of a base 12. You see, but the eternal source current flows from the Akasha Aya into the Akasha into the 12. So when this is cut off the 12 point, the flow of energy from source, boom, it cuts it off, the direct flow of energy, and then boom, it collapses the light and sound into an artificial base 10 Fibonacci sequence. So they started through free will choice getting curious what would happen. They started to interact and digress from the source of all energy. And eventually, the Jovian collective, which sends in a portion of its energy into this time matrix, right? And they were guardians of 10 and 11, right? They sent in more than 50% of their energy or their quanta, and they digress from source. And we're going to go into this deeper later. And they had a choice. Right? And they chose. We're going to cut off 12. We're going to utilize our knowledge of first creation physics. We're going to collapse the eternal Cathara tree of life. We're going to make it into a base 10, which you see on the Kabbalah, 10 circles, 10 Sephoras. And we're going to create an artificial biveka light system, which appears as real light, which can still make you feel good, which can give you visions of ascended masters. But do you see when you're giving your worship to some type of outside entity or energy or ascended master or fallen geometry, it consumes energy to create energy, which is feeding the system that they created. Jehovah, you see all these people worshiping Jehovah? You see where it all comes from? You see how it's all interconnected? Because when you cut off from the direct source of all energy, you need to siphon energy through worship, through base 10 mathematical codes, through finite life geometries, right? And so it all starts to make sense. So they collapsed it, and then they literally destroyed the 12. And we're going to get into this today, right? So a portion of the Jehovian collective, they made a free will decision to override eternal source mechanics. There's no force in source.
I'll repeat that. There's no force in source. For there to be love, there has to be a choice. If there's no choice, there's no love. So like, for example, a big buff dude on a Harley, right? And he's got a little Asian girl on the back. And he says to that girl, if you leave me, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that to you. Blah, blah, blah. That's not love because there's no choice. That's fear. So source always allows. Let me repeat that. Source always allows. Acceptance is the first step of love. There's no love if there's no choice. So source allowed free will choice, and over a period of time, the Jehovian collective, which was in charge of Universal Stargate 10 and 11, started to digress through free will choice. They began experimenting with non-reciprocal energy flows, which means they were taking energy from systems without giving it back. It's an artificial inversion of eternal life. Because when you're connected to the source of all energy, it's a reciprocal, consistently returning to source, giving to source. You don't need to take energy from anyone because you're connected to the source of all energy. And it's continuously expanding and contracting, giving and receiving, magnetic, non-polarized. So they started experimenting with non-reciprocal energy flows, one-way flows. The need for greed leads to more need. And the Jehovian Anunnaki collective began modifying the natural flow of energy by creating systems that only pooled energy inward without returning it to source or sharing it outward. This is called non-reciprocal energy flow, and it's the opposite of how eternal life works. Parasitizing energy, vampiring energy. Because if you're not connected to the source of all energy, you have to pull energy from different systems, including Earth. So they use the inverted spin ratios to try to sustain themselves artificially, but over a period of time, it cut them off from the eternal flame, which caused their templates to degrade. These inverted currents were later embedded into spiritual symbols, which we will review later, technologies and planetary grids, many of which are still active today. You see symbols are light and sound. So they're literally using artificial light and artificial base 10 mathematics to pull energy in a one-way energy suck system to feed these off-planet energies and entities, which literally have chosen to collapse the 12, right? So that they're not connected to the source of all energy anymore, and literally create a base 10 mathematical model, and they're siphoning energy through these artificial light one-way suck systems, right? And we'll get into the specific symbols, and symbols are just sound and light, right? So, and remember, they were sound and light architects. That's scalar waves. That's what they did. That's what their role was, to guard Universal Stargate 10 and 11. So they were like people afraid of dying who tried to build machines that would keep them alive forever. So this is like, but they forgot that real life they were missing was the love flowing from source. And you can have compassion for them because Jehovah sent in, like Jehovian, set in their children, Metatron. And if someone is losing their children through free will choice, they're going to send in more of their energy on a rescue mission, right? Because their children got curious and digressed. And so you can have sympathy and compassion for them, right? They were afraid of dying. You see how that fear has spread into humanity when it runs on this system, which is disconnected from source? Do you see how it's all interconnected, as above, so below? Like how they're literally, the fear of dying, which they had, which that's why they created the need for greed system, the energy suck system, has infused itself into the educational system, into the monetary system, into the health system, into the capitalistic system that we live in, because these off-planet beings are currently controlling all of the on-planet systems. It's not decentralized. They're sucking it through the energies. You see how it's all connected? Through the artificial light. And we're going to dive into that today. So, but you can have compassion for them because it's like, wow, yeah, I get it. They digressed. They got curious. They made a choice. And this is where victim mode started, because when they digressed and they collapsed the 12, which we'll get into, they started pointing a finger at Source and saying, you allowed this to happen, Source. It's your fault. And so do you see how that has spread into humanity? It's not my fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. It's the system's fault. And as soon as you outsource your power and you point your finger at something outside of you, you're giving your power away. And so they pointed their finger at Source, and that's where victim mode first started. And if you're in victim mode, you're powerless. Because you're saying that something outside of me has power over me to control how I feel inside. And it's amazing to me, and I say this with all compassion, how many supposedly advanced spiritual people are still in victim mode through karmic cycles. And this is why. You see how it's connected? It's a recycling loop of a one-way energy suck system. Codependency. And it all happened because the 12, the direct connection point to Source, was exploded. And we're going to get into that. Because the Source energy flows through the 12. Down to the 11, to the 10, to the 9, to the 8, to the 7, from the avatar to the, right? There's a very intelligent flow of energy that happens in eternal life systems. So the Jehovian collective, they sought to mimic the functions of Source, spinning light, organizing matter, and generating timelines, but cut off the return loop. They cut off the return loop, the 12. And the 8, which is the direct Azuray connection point to Source, the permanent seed atom, right? The direct connection point. So if you look at a flower of life, it's a little off-center. What's up, beautiful soul? If you haven't heard about the magic of peptides, here it is. What's a peptide? It's a short-chain amino acid. It's like a signal in your body which can turn on a pathway, which can help give you more energy, can help you lose weight in a natural way. It can help you recover faster for those who want to work out. It can help you build muscle. It can help with almost all different types of things, with skin, with helping your GI gut repair. So there's a pathway, a natural signal in your body, and that's what these peptides do. They turn on these signals. But the key is to get on the right dose for the right duration. And that's why at Limitless Living MD, we offer free 15-minute consults with one of our expert coaches. So if you're curious and if this resonates, look at the link below and click below and schedule a free 15-minute consult to see if peptides are the right match for you. And this seeded the false ascension teachings. You can ascend through technology without DNA healing? No. Without humility, without the eternal flame? No. This is a science. You cannot. There's a specific way to incend, not ascend. So this seeded the early Metatronic distortion and anti-Christic spin systems. So who is Metatron? So Metatron is a conscious projection, or like a child, if you want to say, a portion of the energy of the Jehovian oversoul. And Metatron was originally assigned to scalar wave regulation and rod architecture roles, helping to control the flow of energy in and out of Source, right? It was very knowledgeable. It had knowledge of first creation physics. So Metatron was like a highly advanced assistant created by a larger group of beings called the Jehovian Oversoul. And Metatron was sent into this universe to help manage how energy moves through space, like helping guide the energy currents of light and sound that hold reality together. And Metatron worked with the original blueprint, so it understood the original blueprint of creation. So Metatron was like a cosmic engineer who helps keep the structure of time and space and consciousness flowing smoothly and in balance with Source. So, but after Metatron decided to, through free will choice, digress from the source of all energy through the Lyra system, right, and started messing with inverted spin systems, Metatronic spin systems, which only suck energy without giving it back, right? It became inverted and became the architect of the Metatronic reverse spin spirals. So there's two time spirals. There's a Christic spiral and a Metatronic spiral. So for a long period of time, the Metatronic spiral after the fall, which we'll go into, has been riding the Christic spiral. It's literally been siphoning energy through the system and riding on the Christ spiral. But now, right now, humanity is coming to this place where the Christ spiral and the Metatronic spiral are diverging. They're polarizing, and you can feel it happening in society right now. Love or fear, base 12 or base 10. And nothing is good or bad. It's a choice. Do we want to abide by systems which literally abide on hierarchy? And guys, like this is like as above, so below, right? So literally the whole system is a hierarchy. It's a triangle. At the very, very top, the Jehovian Anunnaki, right? And then there's their Metatron, is their children. And then they have their off-planet chosen ones, and they have their on-planet chosen ones, right? And then literally every step down the triangle knows less. There's no transparency. They tell them nothing until at the very end of the triangle, literally just humans being fed on, they know nothing about this. And that's why I'm sharing this information. They don't even care about their children at this point. They're just food. And every system for a long period of time has followed this one-way suck energy system, triangle, right? And that's the Metatronic spiral. And it's literally feeding, weaponizing itself against the Christic spiral. And it has been for a long time. But there's a very specific math between the Christ spiral and the Metatronic spiral, the Christ spiral. And so let's go through that, right? So the Christ spiral is the eternal life spiral. It was seeded from eternal source via the Azuray flame. The Metatronic spiral, which is artificial, if you want to call it cut off from source, was created through fallen Jehovian Metatronic experiments. The spin pattern of the Christic spiral is tri-wave. So there's an omnipolar top circle which splits into magnetic and feminine, and it continuously splits and returns and splits and returns. So it's not locked. It's a tri-wave spiral. Holy Trinity, reciprocal spiral, in and out, return flow. Now, the Metatronic spiral is a bi-wave, non-reciprocal spiral. It's locked. It's polarized. So do you see how this goes into the media, which is always trying to cause division in subtle ways? If you plan on being my brother, it don't matter if you're black, right? So, like, well, the reason I sing that, Michael Jackson knew it don't matter if you're black or white, but literally in Hollywood, in news, right? Democrat or Republican, male or female, black or white, Black Lives Matter, this lives matter, they're always trying to polarize, divide and conquer. Do you see how that leads to bi-wave, Metatronic reverse frequencies, polarization, good and bad? But the tri-wave spiral is omnipolar, non-polarized. This is the math. And that literally has to do with how is our light body coded. So the geometry of the Christic spiral, it expands outward eternally. It's continuously expanding, contracting, continuously new universes, new galaxies. And as you speak, 100 million breath. Whoo, yeah, that's the eternal life spiral, right? But the Metatronic spiral, it spirals inward in a loop that eventually collapses into a finite core, what scientists call a black hole. Not bad. It just means it's going to consume energy to create energy, and it's going to spiral in on itself and eventually self-implode into a black hole, which is going to become space dust eventually over a long period of time. And this is why you can have compassion, right? Because once the Metatronic collective begin to do that, they literally begin to fear death. And they had to develop systems using their knowledge of first creation physics to siphon energy. And that's what happens when people are in survival mode. They literally, man, sometimes so subtly and in the name of spirituality even, there'll be subtle undercurrents of energy, which are hooks. And they'll smile and they'll say the nice things, but there's a subtle undercurrent of a hook. And you have compassion because they're in survival mode. They don't even know it. They're in lack, and the belief in lack is the root cause of all suffering. Let me repeat that. The belief in lack is the root cause of all suffering. And because they're running on this Metatronic spiral, they're somehow afraid of death. They have taken on the belief system that God is not fair. Why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? And they literally have a problem with Source. And I've seen this in supposedly advanced spiritual beings. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this wisdom. He who has ears, let him hear. This wisdom explains the science of the big, generous, patient, loving heart of God, free will choice for his children. And it says, even if you choose different systems, even if you choose to digress, even if you choose, I will send in a rescue plan. Covenant of Palador. I will make an emerald covenant. I will send in my sons and daughters on a rescue mission. And even if you curse my name and kill my prophets, the Emerald Covenant stands. Every single soul, every single child of mine will have the opportunity to return to Source as Source wholeness. And even if you choose not to, I honor your choice. How great, how wide, how deep, how patient is the love of Source. And the truth will set us free. So this is the science. So the Christ spiral follows the base 12 eternal life tree of grid, a Cathara grid, right? Which is literally this. If you understand this symbol, okay, you'll understand the secrets of the universe. 369, not just 369, 369, 12. And when God made man and woman in his image, it was this base 12 eternal life code. So in eternal life systems, it follows the 12 tree grid of life, the Cathara grid, Trinity waves. In finite life or Metatronic or Fibonacci spirals, it follows the base 10, which is the beast grid, which is the 10 Sephora on the Kabbalah tree of life, which is the Vesica Pisces overlay. It's an overlay, a simulation overlay, which is not connected to the eternal source, right? So the energy flow of the Christic spiral is an eternal exchange. It's an eternal God making love with God, continuously connected to the source of all energy, expanding and contracting and giving back to source and receiving from source, right? And this is math. But the Metatronic spiral is a one-way siphoning system. It takes in energy but doesn't return it. The Merkaba, right? What is that? Merkaba is how source force moves. Top spin, electric, bottom spin, magnetic, right? It's how Elijah left the planet on a chariot of fire, right? And so the Christic spiral organically builds and collapses fields in balanced cycles. The false Metatronic Merkaba is a forced spin, unnatural acceleration in light fields. And I'm sure probably Drunvalo Melchizedek was trying his best to teach what he thought was true. But unfortunately, if you follow those spin ratios, it's a forced spin and unnatural acceleration, and you'll end up in a black hole. So the end result of the Christic spiral is regeneration, wholeness, and eternal evolution. And the Metatronic spiral eventually will lead to depletion, fragmentation, and black hole space dust return. No incarnational memory of its existence. And right now, humanity is deciding. Okay? And that's why this wisdom is coming out. So in a Christic spiral, there's eternal flame templates, 12-stranded DNA, and Christos teachings, right? So in Metatronic spiral, there's inverted Merkaba spins, Metatron's cube, and Kabbalah tree of life. So in simple terms, the Christic spiral is like a living breath. It inhales and exhales. And for those in the 12-strand DNA course, Eternal Life Tribe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The in-breath and out-breath of God. You merge with the in-breath and all of creation happening literally. And it's a science from the Akasha Aya down the 12 into the Azuray point. Literally, you're connected and constantly expanding and contracting and expanding with source all at the same time, never consuming energy to create energy. And you're literally merging with the Christic spiral in the inhale and out breath of God, and you return to source in balance, and it grows forever without ever needing to steal energy because it's connected to the source of all energy. In contrast, the Metatronic spiral is like a vacuum. It pulls energy inward and then it traps it. And over a period of time, it burns out and eventually will collapse. You see, the Metatronic spiral is a one-way inward spin. That's why they call it reverse Metatronic spin. And it mimics light. Light can bend and refract in light. This is what I'm saying, biveka light, right? It's not triveka. It can make you feel good. It can show you holographic insert visions of ascended masters, things like that. But it's severed from the source return loop, initiating what is called death science energetics. So what's up, beautiful souls? Exciting announcement, the launch of Source Clothing. It was born from a desire. What if we could blend eternal life sigils that activate the 12-stranded DNA, the inner Christos, and we could wear it and activate not only ourselves, but everybody who sees it. You see, sigils are the language to activate. So that's why I put so much time, love, and intention into designing, and fun, into designing Source Clothing, and it's launching soon. And we're going to give away, to celebrate, 50 signed Source hoodies with Eternal Life 12-strand DNA course access for life, also signed books, and a new never-released meditation to activate your 13, 14, 15 dimensional self. We're giving those away on our webinar launch. And you're also going to get access to the store before anybody else does. And so if this resonates with you, you want to put your name in on the webinar to win one of the 50, you want early access, and you want these portable temples for the awakening ones, eternal life sigils on the clothing, Source Clothing Company. You'll find the link below. Sign up for it, and I'll see you on the webinar as we launch, and you'll have early access, and your support means the world. So thank you. Source Clothing Company launching soon. Eternal life codes. Wear your frequency. Appreciate your support. Finite life Metatronic symbols and systems. So Metatron's cube. And absolutely no judgment. I know a lot of people out there are working with this cube, probably from sincere intentions, but it's often taught as sacred geometry. But in truth, it overlays 10 spheres, or Sephora, and it is a bi-wave artificial light structure, and removing dimensions 11 and 12, and it's embedded with reverse spin ratios that pull energy inward, not back to source. Let that land, let that sink. Number 2, the Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, 10 circles. On this has 12. This is eternal life, Tree of Life. The Sephora on the Kabbalah Tree of Life has 10. We just talked about the history of why that happened. It's a base 10 template which misses the original Christos codes of the 12 tree Catharga. Let me explain this again. If you cut off the 12, which they did, we're going to get into that, and you make it into a 10, you take out 2 circles. The center point is off of the source, and it's spiraling in a Metatronic spiral, and the energy that which comes into this universe through the 12 is gone. The direct inflow of energy from source, right? So the Kabbalah Tree of Life. And guys, I'm not here to condemn, but eventually the truth will make itself known. And there's a lot of Kabbalah centers which have these gurus, which accept these huge, large donations, which eventually, you see what I'm saying? It's a one-way energy system. And I'm sure they're preaching a lot of good things and they're helping their people a lot too. But it can make you feel good. It can also give you visions. There is also a lot of wisdom in Kabbalah. Don't get me wrong. The Metatron collective, like I said, was a very high order with knowledge of first creation physics. But on some subtle level, it's an energy one-way suck system if it's base 10 or below. And that's the base 10 template, which misses the original Christos codes of the 12 tree Kathara grid. It blocks access to full DNA activation as Azuray flame. It's commonly used in esoteric Judaism, Western Hermetics, and mystery schools. The Vesica Pisces, also a fallen Metatronic symbol and system. It's often seen in divine feminine womb symbols. However, the Vesica Pisces is distorted ratio. It's using Metatronic geometry. It forms a compression-based field and inverts the Christic spiral, which anchors duality, Vesica Pisces, 2 circles instead of 3, duality. And the Vesica Pisces is the foundation of the flower of life, grid systems. The flower of life, another fallen symbol. It's beautiful, but it's incomplete, and it's artificially cloned patterns. They replicate a portion of the true eternal flame structure, but they emit the Azuray center, direct connection point to source, and it consumes energy to create energy. Therefore, currently everything in nature is following, if you want to call it, the phi ratio, the golden mean spiral, and it runs out of energy, and that's why everything in nature dies. But that's why the tribe we have online is called the Eternal Life Tribe, because we do base 12 eternal life techniques, which re-encrypt our base 12 eternal life and literally reconnect the direct connection point to source in the Azuray 8th chakra, restoring the morphogenetic architecture of eternal life, therefore never needing to take energy from anybody. And it restores the eternal lotus of life, which is literally imprinted on the clothing, which is coming out on source clothing, because symbols literally can reactivate our DNA into the eternal life code. And the more of us remember, the more of us re-encrypt our DNA to the base 12 code, the more of us are starting to re-encrypt not only individually, but for humanity in the core of Mother Earth back to the eternal life code, which is one of my missions, to restore the eternal life coherence and the base 12 eternal life code for me, you, we, for humanity. So the Sri Yantra is another commonly drawn popular version of an inverted triangle that produces metatronic ratios. While the original Sri Yantra was a higher harmonic mandala, the current modern versions have been recoded and used in tantric and kundalini circles in a distorted form. And remember, symbols, right, are a language of the DNAs. The DNA is an antenna or a receiver. So when you're looking and staring at inverted symbols, your DNA is entering into that one-way inverted collapsing energy. It can still look beautiful. It can still sometimes even feel blissful. And I'm not here to condemn. I'm just saying, like, these symbols were original distortions of the original base 12 eternal life math. So inverted Merkaba techniques, like many modern light body activations, like Drunvalo Melchizedek's teachings, they teach counter-rotational spin, patterns that are not aligned with eternal source law. These force open the light body instead of allowing it to grow organically through 12-strand DNA activation, right? And so even when I was like pumping Kundalini religiously for 2 hours a day, it was forcing open the light body. And I had healing crises. But the 12-stranded DNA was meant to naturally, gradually open in an organic way through 12-strand DNA activation. Naturally, gradually, organically. So the inverted Merkaba techniques, which is literally spin ratios, remember, it's inverting and collapsing on itself. Yes, it can take you places and show you artificial light and make you feel good, but this over a period of time will damage the natural rod and staffs architecture in the human body. The rod is the vertical connection, the staff is the horizontal connection, right? And you're a walking Stargate and your portal, right? So if you have the false Merkaba spins, you ain't going nowhere but eventually into a black hole. And so this can lead to burnout and distortion over time. And guys, I'm not here to condemn, but he who has eyes, let him see. Is the person who's doing the teachings, what do they look like? Do they look burned out? Or do they look like they're getting younger and younger and younger and younger? Use your eyes. The infinity symbol, while it seems harmless, the popular horizontal figure 8 form is often used to anchor bi-wave spin currents, true eternal law spirals in a tri-wave loop, not locked in dual oscillation. Certain ascended masters, seals, and flame symbols. So I'm talking about all the Metatronic symbols. Many visual seals used in channeled teachings from false light entities. For example, the I Am Presence. For example, the Great White Brotherhood. usually carry Metatronic reversals hidden in their frequency signatures. And I'm not condemning any of this because I went through all of this. These include colored flame diagrams, for example, the ray system, the 7th ray, the 9th ray, Saint Germain violet flame, and seals connected to phantom field hierarchies. So in summary, if the symbol uses only 10 spheres or emits the Azuray, they didn't even know what the Azuray point, it encourages a one-way spin, ascension out of the body, or bypass. It feels intense, but not peaceful long-term. Likely it's carrying Metatronic coding. And this is what, the eternal life sciences say: learn how to use your discernment, learn how to listen with divine neutrality. And eventually, once you're doing the eternal life techniques, once you study the real dollar bill and you know what it looks like and feels like, the frequency, as soon as you see a fake dollar bill, you'll know right away. And that's what started happening for me, because when I was going through and I was wearing the Flower of Life hat and I was working with the Ascended Masters, I was listening to channelers and I was doing all these different things. I didn't know any better, right? I would be blissful for a while, and then I'd go through like a healing crisis, and then out of up and downs. Do you see why? It's the bi-wave light. It's a one-way inverted light spin. And eventually, when I started doing the eternal life techniques and when I started to reconnect my Azuray point and direct connection point to source, it wasn't some airy-fairy feeling, but it was like this calm, centered being of just being me. So there's what we call the 51% fall threshold. According to CDT Guardian Law, if 51% or more of an oversoul's projection falls out of Christic alignment, the entire oversoul collapses into phantom status. And that's what happened with the Jehovian Anunnaki, right? They sent in the Metatron, right? And over 51% over free will choice digressed from source. And that's what led to the fall of Lyra approximately 950 billion Earth years ago. Lyra, the 12th dimensional field, like Lyra is 12, 11, and 10, right? Remember, they were guarding the 10 and 11, and they went into victim mode and blamed source, and they collapsed to 12, right? And they created a false light system on top, right? So in eternal life cosmology, this marks the first major split between collectives aligned with the organic 12-point creation and those experimenting with a self-contained power loop. This fractured Lyra Armatena, which is right here, and birthing the phantom Wiesa matrix. The matrix. Are you guys starting to understand? The matrix. The red pill. A blue pill, right? The collapse, literally they took this out, the 12, and they collapsed it into a base 10 artificial light matrix, which appears to be like the real video game. The collapse removed the direct 12D source current from several sectors of the time matrix, setting in motion the long Metatronic decay cycle. So that happened. There was also another fall. So the biblical fall is a representation of many. There's many kind of like falls. So there was a 5D Tara, fifth dimensional Earth Tara, which happened approximately 550 million years ago. Yes, there were some factions who are pooling energy once again, because the system leads to where they need to pool energy. So they're pooling energy from Mother Earth. Do you see how this is happening still today? Pooling energy from Mother Earth instead of direct connection to the source, renewable energy, right? There's certain groups fracking, taking energy. Well, that was happening too, but they just had more advanced technology in 5D Earth. They're pooling energy from Mother Earth with different generators, and literally, boom, 5D Earth literally blew up, literally, and it fell through a black hole into and rematerialized in 3D Earth. And so once you start understanding that, you understand, like, that's 5D Earth, and it came through the portal of the black hole of the sun, and it came into 3D Earth. And that's what we see. The 9 planets are actually 12. They're fragments of 5D tar. They lost their spin, and they reaccreted itself as Jupiter, as Mars, as Earth, as all these different things. And that's why the Milky Way has a black hole. You see? Much later, the same distortions resurfaced on the planetary level of Tara. And, the fall happened from 5D to 3D, and Guardian Covenants created, which is the Covenant power. So as soon as this happens, the Guardians allow free will choice, but they also say, okay, let's do a rescue plan. And that was the Covenant of Palador, where people from the future volunteered to come and help Mother Earth remember. Shout out to the volunteers. and established to preserve the Christos Sophia DNA pattern and begin long-term restoration. And the inner Christos reclamation is on like Donkey Kong. That's what Yeshua was up to. That's what King Arthur was up to. That's what we're up to, right? It's a continuation of the inner Christos reclamation mission. And what is that even? It's the 12-stranded DNA. So the consequences of the fall include loss of the eternal flame current, fragmentation of DNA fire letters. And I want to spend a little time on this. What is the DNA fire letter? It's like a hidden light and sound code. It tells your body, soul, and higher self how to work together. So there's a fire code, right? Dimension 3, between 3, 4, 5, 6. Your soul, 7, 8, 9. There's a fire codes, sound and light codes. When you press the codes, it unlocks the flow of energy once again between your upper stranded DNA and reignites and re-encrypts your upper stranded DNA to reconnect with the original flow stream of all of source. You see why it might be important to unlock the DNA fire letters and to send it the right sound and light patterns. So when your fire letters are active, you remember who you are. You heal faster because literally frequencies from eternal source down to Akasha Ea, down to your 12, your avatar and your higher self and your superconscious mind, 4, 5, 6, is sending frequencies to the 3, the mental, which reintegrates your ego. D2, depolarizing your emotional body. D2, D1, healing your physical body. You see how it's all interconnected? And why you might want to unlock your DNA fire letters. And you feel more connected to life and to source. You see, there's only one disease. Not 20,000, not, the 500,000, whatever, like 1,000 that are in the DSM-5, the psychiatrist's Bible. No, there's one, a disconnection from your higher self. That's it. Because when you reconnect to your higher self, the energies from eternal source come into your avatar, which literally start re-encrypting your mental body, depolarizing your emotional body, and healing your physical body.
What's up, beautiful soul? I want to personally invite you to join the Eternal Life Tribe. Take a look within and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. Over 2,400 advanced souls sharing, synergizing, encouraging, praying, doing sacred grid work, breathing powerful breathwork sessions together. And there's a frequency that is building within. And check this out. You also get access to the rapid 12-strand DNA activation program. So it's not only 2,400 souls, it's 2,400 souls who have encoded and encrypted to the base 12 eternal life frequency. And that's powerful. So you'll get access to the rapid 12-strand DNA program, the breathwork sessions, all of my meditations, 2 live bi-weekly Q&As with me. And so sometimes the eternal life wisdom can be a lot. So I'm literally there to answer all of your questions along the way as we remember together, walking each other home and creating, synergizing, breathing together. So if this resonates with you, check out the Eternal Life Tribe. I'll see you on the inside.
Your DNA is made of more than just molecules. It holds light and sound codes. So in the intron potential DNA, scientists used to call junk. It's not junk. The language is sound, light, scalar waves, sound, light, and symbols, right? So there's sound code, light and sound codes, which are called fire letters in the intron potential DNA. And these are like ancient piano keys that can play the music of your soul, oversoul, and avatar Christos self. The Anuhazi language is one of the original keys that helps unlock this music. But the key only works when played with love, truth, and your heart is open to source. So the Anuhazi language, the first language in this universe from which all other languages come from, is literally key-coded, the sound tones, the scalar wave, to unlock the fire letters, to restore the eternal life coherence, to re-encrypt the Azuray direct connection point to source, to gradually, naturally, without a healing crisis. Yes, you can still feel you're releasing trauma and things like that, but it's not going to be like in this crazy healing crisis like in Kundalini. The Anuhazi language is key-coded as the original eternal life founders, the original language that they spoke. Unlock the fire letters and to re-encrypt the eternal life code within. And that's why I created the eternal life techniques, literally in the Anuhazi language, 12 sacred techniques in the Anuhazi language. which restores the original eternal life flows and re-encrypts the DNA to the base 12, which unlocks the fire letters inside of the DNA. The Anuhazi language is the original pre-fall frequency language of the eternal life creation code. It was spoken by the Iyani and Maharaji Elohai Elohim founders, and it is the base language of the DNA in fire letter sequences. And so Hebrew letters are ancient letters. And they're very similar, but not the same. And that's why certain spiritual teachers will have their students literally tone the Hebrew letters. Because it's similar, and it's literally unlocking certain things in the DNA. But before ancient India, before it was Egypt, and Egypt, Hebrew tribes, right? Before that, there was Atlantis. Before Atlantis, there was Lemuria. Before Lemuria, there were the 12 original celestial human tribes. And part of the original founders' races, the Maharaji Elohai Elohim founders spoke Anuhazi. So do you see how if you created a race that the language you spoke, you would encode it into their DNA? That's why the techniques work. So when spoken with love and alignment to source, the Anuhazi syllables gently awaken the memory, recode damaged DNA strands, and reattune the body to the eternal flame. Close your eyes. Give me your hand. Can you feel my heart beating? Do you understand? Do you feel the same? Or am I only dreaming? An eternal flame. What a song. Go listen to that song today. Put it on repeat. Or better yet, go listen to some Anuhazi songs. So, the consequences of the fall of 12D Lyra and 5D Earth was loss of the eternal flame current, inability to self-regenerate, and dependency on siphoning energy from other systems. And to survive, it literally attaches its energy field to living systems. I want to be very compassionate about this because, yeah, people need love. And if that inner child, when it was young, didn't receive the love it desperately needed from its parents, or from society, or from its friends, and it was traumatized, it's literally going to get that love anywhere it can get it. And it will use very mysterious spiritual ways sometimes to get that love. Love bombing, acting all holy, and they don't even know it. They're unconscious of it. But here is the science of why that's happening. So, to survive, it attaches its energy field to living systems like Earth or human emotional bodies and creates pathways to draw energy out, especially from low-frequency emotions like fear, shame, or despair, because these are easier to access in unstable fields. The more people stay in those low emotion frequencies, the more energy becomes available to be harvested, and it creates a loop of dependency. The siphoning system cannot stop taking, and the human field cannot fully recharge. And that's why it's a codependent energy flow, energy suck system. Stargate 12 in Lyra Armatena was the primary access point to the Akasha Aya host field and eternal flame current. So what is the Akasha Aya? The Akasha Aya is the original eternal creation host field. The first undistorted manifestation of source outside of pure void space. You know how it says a source was existing as the void? So the first manifestation outside of the void is what is called the Akasha Aya. And from the Akasha Aya, the source energy flows. And the higher up on the mountain, the purer the energy is, right? No distortion in the Akasha Aya. From there, it creates universes and galaxies. And Earth is one of them. And that's why when we chant in the eternal life techniques, Uma Etra Ina E Ekasha, the sound tone, right? So it's made of triadic eternal life and sound, and it is the parent structure from which all time matrices including ours, emerge. So sometimes in the heart protocol ceremonies I facilitate, people are literally seeing galaxies folding on top of each other, right? And so they're going to this place. So these things that I'm talking about is not just things I'm reading in a book. It's happening in my hologram. It's happening in my ceremonies, and it's all being verified in the breathwork ceremonies we do in the Eternal Life Tribe. People are literally remembering their time in Atlantis. People are literally remembering what tribe they come from, right? So these are all things that are happening. I was taken into a Merkaba, right? So all of these things that I'm speaking about, I'm living. So in Eternal Life Science, the Akasha Aya is not just a place. It's a living, breathing field of eternal source consciousness currents, and it's flowing in tri-wave eternal formation. So our 15-dimensional time matrix exists in a smaller bubble, which is called an Akasha. The Akasha Aya, which gives birth to time matrices, which is called Akasha, which emerged from a larger Akasha Aya field. So the Akasha Aya is like an original eternal flame host field, and the Akasha, Uma Etra Ina Akasha, is like a child matrix birthed through the Akasha Aya. So our time matrix is one domain inside a single Akasha or a Ekaveka. So how does the source energy flow into our matrix? So the source energy flows from the eternal flame core, the unicide, the central point, and then it splits itself right into the Akasha Aya triveka spiral, right? And the Akasha Aya then flows into the Akasha, and then the Akasha energy, which flows and it spirals down, right, into the 12, Lyra Armatena, which was exploded. And that's why Earth lost its eternal life place in the eternal life universes. So the energy was supposed to flow from the Akasha down through all the other planetary and personal Kathara grids, down to 12, 11, 10, over Soul 97, 654, down to 3D, which is Earth is right here, 3, Universal Stargate 3. And this flow was tri-wave in nature, not bi-wave, tri-wave in nature, right? It was self-regenerating, and it was encoded with divine intelligence, the Christos Sophia coding in all 12 strands of the human DNA. In Stargate 12 and Lyra Armatena, which is tatted on my neck right here, because that's one of my missions, is to help restore this energy flow, eternal flame energy, to enter into our time matrix. So it's kind of like the crown chakra of our planetary body and the entry point for the Rishi eternal light code. So from 15, 14, 13, the Rishi self flows into the 12, you see? So the Jehovian Anunnaki Metatronic factions, they attempted to hijack and control Stargate 12. So they collapsed Lyra. They said, Source, you're not fair. And they collapsed Lyra Armatena. They cut off the direct flow from the Akasha Aya into our time matrix, which caused the fragmentation of the original eternal flame current, which led to the current phantom system, the artificial hologram, which is literally on top, the reincarnational loops, the closed loop system, the new age false wave of light, an artificial light grid, which is known as the Metatronic reverse spirals or the WISA matrix. And since then, Earth and the entire time matrix that we're in has been operating with partial and distorted energy. So unless we realign through guardian techniques or eternal flame reconnection and remembrance, right? So in summary, the Akasha Aya is the heart of source that sends out love, light, and life to all of its children. Stargate 12 in Lyra was like the main artery, the crown, connecting us to the heart of source. But when beings tried to steal and control the energy known as Metatron, that artery was cut off, blocking the full flow of love reaching us. And so we forgot who we were, but that flow can be restored. Not by force, there's no force in source, but by realigning with the original 12-strand DNA design and opening our inner stargates again. So there's a base 10 artificial overlay system created by the Jehovian Metatronic factions, which then created a base 10 Kathara grid overlay, right? So it's not even real, it's an overlay. World War III, World War II, World War I. It's false artificial light. Do you see what I'm saying? It all starts making sense. They removed access to dimensions 11, 12, cutting off the return to source. That's why there's reincarnation loops. And that's why when people die, they're literally seeing, oh, you believe in Jehovah? Oh, you believe in this ascended master? Oh, you believe false light? Oh, hey, you didn't complete it. Go back. Why? Because the 12 has not been reconnected. How are you gonna leave if you you're in a false collapse, false light system according to your beliefs? Be it so done unto you. So it introduced the closed loop spin, which is called the beast grids, by Veka electrostatic artificial spin technology. And it's spread through spiritual teachings such as the Kabbalah Tree of Life, Metatron's Cube, the inverted Merkaba teachings. And the result is spiritual systems that appear powerful, but they lead to energetic decay and eventual soul fragmentation unless the eternal flame template is restored. So when you see Metatron's Cube on yoga or clothing or on necklaces, remember that it's not the original source structure. It's an inverted vesica spin matrix, a compression model that pulls energy inward without return to source. It can still make you feel good. It can still give you visions. Many light body activations or Merkaba techniques and healing modalities unknowingly use Metatronic coding. A lot of them don't even know that they're doing it. It can feel powerful, but eventually it leads to burnout, siphoning, and soul fragmentation. And the solution is not fear or rejection or projection. It is remembrance. What we fight, we become. What we judge becomes a shadow. By restoring your 12-stranded DNA template, you naturally realign with the base 12 eternal flame architecture. This process reverses the spin distortion, it clears the phantom overlays, and it corrects Merkaba spins and returns your consciousness to the organic path of ascension, bringing heaven to earth, not ascension, going out somewhere into some false bliss, false artificial light, false ascended master light, right? So that's why I teach the eternal life techniques, because it will literally correct your Merkaba spins, restore your original connection point to source Azuray. It will realign you to the 12, the eternal source of all energy. So you will no longer need to siphon energy from anybody, and you're good, and abundance creates more abundance because there is no lack when you remember you are the source of all energy. God making love with God, there is no lack. In summary, we are not here to fight. What we fight, we become. What we judge becomes a shadow. We're not here to fight fallen angels. We are here to remember you were never fallen to begin with. Metatron's fall was a warning, but also a map. Metatron mirrored the part of us that forgets its origin and tries to engineer our way back to God. But no structure can replace the eternal living flame that lives within us. And that flame literally is within the morphogenetic field. And we are remembering now the Lyran Wars, the fall of Tara, the death grids. They're not just the past, they are present in our patterns, in our energy, and in our choices. But so too is the original eternal template in the 12-stranded DNA, the eternal flame, the Christos Sophia flame. And we don't activate it by trying or striving or hustling. We activate it by realigning. The rod, vertical current, the staff, and the take a look within, and you will find you are who you've been looking for the whole time. But take a look within where? Into the intron potential. DNA scientists used to call junk. The morphogenetic field. If when you send it the right frequencies, intentions, sound, light, eternal life symbols, begins to reactivate and realign. And the 12 comes back online, can always connected to the source, and the Christic spiral comes online. Always Tribeca light starts coming back online, and you start becoming more of who you've always been, just you. The energetic infrastructure of God, making love with God, experiencing itself, and then Earth becomes a playground, as was the original intention of Source as you exit the false phantom AI overlay matrix. And you start living in your eternal life, frequency, and truth. And so today, together, we remember part of our mission is to restore the original frequencies back of the Lyra Armatena. It's not just a location, it's a living, harmonic, multidimensional architecture within not only our human DNA, but it's connected to the planetary DNA. Do you see? As we restore our grid within, it restores Mother Earth's grid. Mother Earth slowly begins to reawaken her brain. Mother Earth slowly begins to reawaken her frequency. Mother Earth slowly begins to realign her frequency, her rod structure. And for those who choose, on November 22nd, we're doing an eternal life grid work to realign the rod, the vertical current over the Great Pyramids of Egypt, to heal the divine masculine, not only within humanity, but within the core of Mother Earth. And when we reunite together, there's power. And this is why we do. There's a lot of people banging on drums thinking they're doing grid work, and which is great. But now we're doing eternal life grid work. We're bringing in eternal life frequencies. We're restoring the flow from the 12 down to 11, 10, 9, 8, over all the way to 4, which is Egypt, and literally down the central spine. We're bringing it into the Great Pyramids, into the core of Mother Earth, and lifting the frequency. And together we remember. And as we do that, it ripples into the brain, the ley lines of Mother Earth, and the divine masculine, which has been off balance because of the biveka light. The phantom matrix starts to realign and rebalance into the triveka. Do you see how it's all connected, and why planetary grid work, eternal life grid work, is one of the greatest forms of service to humanity? And on November 22nd, we're going to join together to do that in a free webinar. And we're going to do eternal life techniques. We're going to introduce eternal life symbols. And if you go to www.sourceclothing.co, sourceclothing.co, you can see the link in the bio. You can register for free. And every single person who registers, I'm going to give a free meditation to reactivate this grid within you. And that is one of my missions and one of my greatest joys, to do that. So we're not going back in time. We're just simply vibrating in resonance with the pre-fall eternal flame frequency. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of vibration and frequency. And in doing so, we heal Earth's body. And we naturally entrain to the Lyra Aramatena flow. And this is not done through willpower. It's harmonic entrainment, co-resonant frequency harmony with the eternal life frequency flowing through you, flowing through me, flowing through we. And together, without distortion, this artificial Merkaba spins, this artificial light, as we re-encrypt the 12, begins to fade out of our hologram. And we begin to live in a new decentralized freedom, always connected to the source of all energy, spiraling in a Christic spiral. No lack, abundant, connected to the source of all energy, and abundance creates more abundance. So on November 22nd, in a free webinar, we launch, and we can literally wear clothing that literally activates the 12-stranded DNA, not only in us, but in whoever sees it. Because the DNA is literally a receptor and receiving of. Now it's time to bring back the eternal life symbols and the eternal life encryption back. And we're just remembering we never left. So find a quiet place if you're not driving. Let us close with the meditation. Sit or lie down and close your eyes. Inhale slowly through your nose. Exhale gently through your mouth. And with each breath, as you slow down your breath, feel a soft golden white flame rising from behind your thymus gland, your Azuray direct connection point to source. This is your Azuray, the eternal living flame, direct connection point to source. And as you breathe this white golden light in and out, on the next inhale, see 12 point like a clock from all directions. Breathe that in to your Azuray. And visualize this 12-pointed sphere of life and light forming all around you, with each breath strengthening this 12-pointed sphere of light around you in all directions. And each point corresponds to one strand of your DNA, a dimension, a remembrance, one tone of your original eternal song. As you continue to breathe this 12-pointed white golden light all around you in a sphere, softly repeat in your heart, I am the eternal flame. I align with Source. I reject all false light and distorted spins. I remember who I am. I am that I am. And let this light grow with your next inhale. Let this white golden light flow through your arms, your legs, through your crown. On the next inhale, 12-pointed breath into your Azuray. Exhale, shoot it down your spine into the core of Mother Earth and feel Mother Earth's 12-pointed eternal life potential coming back alive. On your next inhale, see this light spreading from the core of Mother Earth into your Azuray, up your spine, out your crown, and encircling all of Mother Earth, collapsing the artificial grids, and send this eternal living light from your Azuray. You got a sun in your heart on the next exhale, 12-pointed breath, and see it encircling all of Mother Earth, all of her children, all of her water, quantumly, perpetually renewing itself. Always connected to the source of all energy. Never consuming energy to create energy. There's enough for everybody. And continue to breathe this eternal light. Breathe. Anchor. Remember and see this light spreading into the waters, the tectonic plates of Mother Earth, and re-encrypting the eternal life potential to Mother Earth. It is done in alignment with eternal source law. We walk as Christed beings, and we shall never forget again. One more breath. Exhale, let it all go. Beautiful. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. If you want to join on November 22nd for a free webinar, we're doing Eternal Life Gridwork over Egypt, restoring the divine masculine architecture. And, you know, when you heal Mother Earth, there's a reciprocal energy flow. Remember, you can't give with that. We're doing eternal life. You're not just giving. You're giving and receiving, right? And every single person who joins the webinar as a gift of gratitude, I'm going to give them a free meditation, Eternal Life meditation. We're also going to launch Source Clothing. So if you join the webinar, you're going to get a 25% off coupon code for everything on the entire store. You're going to get 1 week early access, which means that you're going to have access to the entire store before Black Friday for a whole week with 25% off coupon code for everybody who attends the webinar. www.sourceclothing.co. The link should be in the bio. You just register for the free webinar there, and we're going to have fun. We're going to launch, and I'm going to try to pack the webinar with as much value as possible. So I hope to see you there. All right, beautiful souls, have a beautiful, blessed, powerful, grounded, eternal life-filled, joyful week. See you next week. What's up, beautiful souls? It's a pleasure to bring to you the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast, and there's a lot of beautiful souls behind this, and our intention is literally to give you the best information, the most truthful information that can help you in your life be 100% free physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so that is our pledge to you, and our intention to you is to create the best possible podcast for you and to add as much value to you. And in exchange, if you benefit or if you receive value from this podcast, we would truly appreciate it if you can subscribe, share, let your friends know, because that really helps us and brings the energy flow back so we can continue to pour energy into you. Thank you so much for honoring the reciprocal energy exchange. And if this calls to you, subscribe, share, and we will continue to bring forth to you the best podcast we possibly can.